I'm going to call the meeting to order of tonight's March Mobility and Transportation Advisory Board. We're going to start with a roll call. And start with Taryn Malaby-Beck.
Here.
And Aaron Lau. Here. We have John Reagan. Paul O'Rourke. Here. Elizabeth McCabe.
Here.
And then we have Rita Masuko. And standing in, I assume, for Mike Haberman in the traffic engineer slot. Nice to see you. The commissioner is going to make it. So I will start with a request to approve the February meeting minutes. We have a motion to approve.
I think there was an error, right? Charlotte, yeah, Charlotte sent an email. There was one.
If we approve in second, I think we can discuss. So if we have a second on the, right, that's a process, isn't it? To discuss the meeting minutes, we can.
You move in second and then you discuss.
We have a second. Okay.
Sorry.
So discussion, Charlotte Ford sent a,
She sent it to everybody.
okay, I saw something come in from the subcommittee.
Yeah,
Charlotte?
we had a discussion in our subcommittee.
Okay.
And I noticed a issue with the minutes. Oh, maybe this is more question. Charlotte. Officially.
You said you had a correction to the minutes. That's on the floor currently.
Sorry.
You were on the floor, so I was looking back at your email. Not to put it right
No
on you.
pressure.
I believe, John, you mentioned for your policy committee that there was some priorities made, but I didn't think that we did, or did we? That was my confusion.
I did send you an email, but it was pretty light on details. I wasn't sure what you needed, so
Okay,
I responded to you with something. I don't know if it satisfied your needs.
okay, so I guess my point to the minutes was like, did we set a priority or didn't we, I guess, in the meeting? It's just my one correction. But sorry, I didn't get a chance to see your email.
This would be on the capital budget item.
Yeah, so it was, sorry.
John, so this was your kind of third items. This came in an email. Did it come to the whole group? I don't think it did.
It was noted in the minutes in section 6B. So it said, Ms. Reagan called out developing policies for neighborhood traffic calming regarding data collection and prioritization.
I believe that prioritization refers to prioritization of streets in that bullet point specifically.
Okay, all right.
I don't think we.
I have it's regarding what budget prioritization.
All right, just wanted to clarify that. Okay, all good.
Right. So it sounds like no correction, but.
Clarification.
Yep. So all in favor of the minutes, say aye. Aye. All right, motion passes. We are gonna move to citizen comments, and first up, we have Tessa Shipley. You can come to the front of the room and address the group. And then we know folks online in regards to your public comments, please have your hand raised and we will unmute you. When we unmute you, you can state your name and address and we'll go from there. So you all have the floor.
Hi, my name is Fran. Hi, my name is Tessa and I live on 54 Shady Drive West. And I live at 41 Shady Drive West. Fran was my first friend when I moved here, and in the summer we did a lemonade stand. And we realized that the cars on Shady Drive and call it Coolidge barely stopped for a second. We were worried because there were some kids in the cars. And some people didn't even stop, and there were cars coming the other direction. And there were kids, only about 4 years old, helping us. And when we did the lemonade stand, we saw some people run the stop sign. And I think that our street should be a one-way, so it's easier to cross the street without being so scared. I also think that our street should be a one-way, and because there are a lot of little kids on our street, like about 15 kids. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. And then Lauren LaRoche at 41 Shady.
Yes.
I'm sorry about the coordinator.
Hello, Mobility Board and Commissioners. My name is Lauren LaRoche. I'm Fran Carnevale's mom. So I reside at 41 Shady Drive West as well with my husband and our children. Some of them are here and just left. We moved to Shady Drive West over 8 years ago, and we were completely unfamiliar with Pittsburgh, Western PA. After weeks of house hunting across the region, we narrowed our search to Mount Lebanon. And one of the biggest reasons we chose our neighborhood and our house was the walkability. We had previously lived in bigger cities, and when moving to Pittsburgh, we knew we didn't want to be car dependent. So that was a huge draw for us. Lebo does offer a wonderful mix of small town vibes, big city amenities, and while we appreciate our close proximity to the business districts, our kids' school, and public transport, we've always had concerns about the traffic on our street. It's the one thing that we really don't enjoy about Shady Drive West, other than the huge hill to get uptown, but I don't expect you guys to be able to fix that. Drivers go way too fast, especially coming down the hill from Route 19 or from Washington Road. Drivers often coast through or completely ignore the stop signs that are at the corner of Shady and Coolidge, as the girls mentioned. Drivers looking for street parking often use our driveway as a turnaround point. Like, that's really frustrating because I don't let the kids play in the driveway for that reason. We have 4 children under the age of 10. They have numerous friends on our block, including Tessa, who's new to the neighborhood. But I get nervous every time they have to cross the street to get to a friend's house. We also frequently go for neighborhood walks, and the lack of curb strips always makes me a little scared when cars zip by just a few feet from our toddler. Well, my ultimate dream, like the girls, would be to see the road converted to a one-way and narrowed to allow for curb strips. I understand that's a much bigger project, and I do think there are some small and easier changes that could be made in the near future to create a safer street for everyone. Now, a lot of our neighbors have proposed painted crosswalk and painted stop bar signs at Shady and Coolidge. I fully support both of those suggestions. We also support landscape bump outs to help slow the traffic and in an effort to make our street greener. It's my understanding that adding more green space to our street could help with excess rainwater. I know we are not the only ones on the street who struggle with basement and yard flooding. So I think, I'm not a landscape architect or an urban planner. I'll leave the details to a few of my neighbors who are a little more experienced in these fields. But I certainly support any effort to make our street better prepared for intense, rainfall and climate change as well. But ultimately, I want a safe place for our children to grow and to play and to enjoy their neighborhood. And not just our children. On Shady West, which is not a big street, it's really just 2 big blocks. It's from, Washington to Mapleton. There are actually more than 30 children. I counted through, and that's not including the big apartment building up the street. I'm not sure how many are living there. So over 30 children, almost all of them under the age of 13. There are a lot of toddlers, school-aged kids who are gaining independence and walking the neighborhood more. Lebo prides itself on being a great place to raise children. I think that's why a lot of us choose to live here. So I think we should commit to making some small changes that could be a huge benefit to everyone. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
When you say curb strips, what do you mean?
I didn't know exactly what word to use. I think of like what's on street parallel to us, like a little bit of green space between the sidewalk and the street.
It's like the sidewalk offset, the green, the curve.
Yeah, so we would,
Gotcha.
you could plant trees there or at least, wildflowers, some sort of something that would help bring water, but it would also just put a few feet between children and traffic.
Discourage trucks from parking on the sidewalk.
What was that?
Discourage trucks from parking on the sidewalk.
That's it.
I believe is it Armando?
Yeah, it's good enough.
Okay.
It's one name. Armando.
Please say your name and address when you come to the front.
Sure, I'll keep this short because give 1 sec. What I wanted to say. So, Armando Camillo, I live on 110 Shady Drive West. And got the crew from Shady Drive West here, so it's great. So I moved in 2009 and into the house where we live at today, and I've seen the traffic just exponentially increase. It's insane, the amount of traffic, lately, even the past 3-4 years. And to what Lawrence, mentioned, we have, 3 kids, a little older, but they're all 15, 13, and 10. They play outside all the time in the front, and 4 kids right across. So between where I live, I have 4 kids across the street, and then my neighbor here's got 3 more kids. So there's like, you're right, at least 30 kids, right? And they're all that age where they want to be in the street to play. And so there isn't a morning that goes by that when I'm backing up, I have to wait for cars to just zip through. And heaven forbid they stop at the stop sign. So at the Coolidge and, Shady Drive section. So I know there's some money available in a mobility funding to create sort of like a living street mentioned earlier on with, we are called Shady Drive West, so I'd imagine at some point there were trees on our street. Now it's barren. I think that we call it Shady Drive the Parkway at this point because it's that bad. And so the fact that we could have more of that curb appeal with with more of that shady, drive feel with trees and just allow us to have the kids be able to enjoy themselves outside without worrying about, the next car going faster than the other car before it, right? So I just concur with what our neighbor said, and just to have a safer street, whether that be, bump outs, whether that be more visibility through the crosswalk sections or anything like that, I think would help the community grow and have that charm that a lot of streets have. Our street doesn't have much charm to it. It's like one of the major streets in Mount Lebanon, it's a major cut through, so I understand why there's tons of traffic, right? But we can at least make it so it's not, a highway at times would be fantastic. So that's what I got, and I hope to see what we can do with that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Armando.
And we have Jim Bear.
First of all, my thanks to the Mobility Board for the opportunity to speak with you. I am here based upon direction provided by Mr. Sokol. I live at 433 Arden Road. I am a resident of one of the 4 corner houses at the corner of Arden and McCann. For the last 18 months, I've patiently watched to see if the installed circle that has been put into the intersection of Arden and McCann would mitigate the traffic concerns for the Arden residents. But based on observation, I don't believe that it has. The intentions were good. There was a whole lot of hard work by a lot of people that went into it, but the experiment isn't working. Matters are worse for the following reasons. Many drivers ignore the stop sign, common theme from what I hear. It's not only on Arden and McCann, but it sounds like it's on Shady as well. In careful discussions, and I say careful discussions with drivers, they tell me that they believe that the circle is a roundabout. And anybody familiar with a roundabout knows that you go into it, there's typically not a stop sign placed at a roundabout, but we have a 4-way stop there. Some slow down, some don't slow down, only a few stop. Just this past Monday, I watched 4 cars in a row. Once the first car goes through, any other car follows it, thinking they don't have to stop either. So that becomes a real concern. It becomes a case of follow the leader. The circle protects drivers who don't observe the 4-way stop. The presence reduces the possibility of being broadsided, or gives that sense that I won't be hit. Drivers make hard left turns rather than go around the circle. This creates a hazardous situation if another vehicle is approaching into that same space in which the hard left turn is being made. There have been numerous close calls. The circle creates confusion, and the confusion has led to numerous confrontations, at least several. Fortunately, to this point, and to the best of my knowledge, the confrontations are verbal and noisy, not physical. I'm told not a pleasant situation for the Arden and McCann residents. In conversation with my neighbors, I'm told that the hard left turns are legal and not a traffic violation. If that's correct, there's no possibility of enforcing that bad behavior. As the curbs at the intersection are ADA compliant, drivers frequently drive up over the sidewalk. Many walkers in the neighborhood, including myself, are cautious when they approach that space. At the same time as a vehicle approaches the space, walkers typically stop and wait for the vehicle to pass, not trusting the situation. The circle is also an eyesore. People drive through it. Over this past winter, it has accumulated road salt. It's unlikely that the residents will step up, as it was expected, to maintain something that is a source of aggravation. Okay, so I'll admit that my information is anecdotal. I'm confident that if temporary cameras were placed at the intersection, the captured video would support what I say. Yes, I am aware that cameras can't be used for enforcement of the stop sign. Again, the intentions were good. The outcomes have not been. Masking, I asked Mr. Sokol for advice as to how to go about bringing attention to this situation that we're facing on Arden and McCann. Well, as I stated at the outset, there was much hard work that went into this, a lot of good intentions. The experiment is not working, and I would encourage that the mobility board does not repeat the experiments elsewhere in the community. Any questions?
I have a question. Did they install any temporary poles or paint to experiment before putting in the hardscape?
There, if I recall correctly, there were cones put up. There were some traffic mitigation. Now, I should be clear. There were speed bumps put in. At one point, there was signage put up in the circle, but the signage was an eyesore. But prior to putting the circle in, to the best of my recollection, the only thing that was placed in there were cones to try to slow down the traffic.
Okay.
And it really does come down to people just don't stop for the stop sign.
Were the cones placed in the configuration of the circle, or were they just out as like warning cones generally?
I can't recall. I just know that the cones were placed there to try to slow things down. When the circle was empty, when there was no shrubbery placed, which we appreciate the fact that the municipality put that in there, the people were taking the cones out and driving through the circle.
So I was, like, when they first put it in, they had 4 signs on the traffic circle to say how you go around a traffic circle. They took those out and then they replaced it with 4 cones. It differs from what the city of Pittsburgh does with their similar traffic circles, which is 1 sign, letting folks know how they navigate it. And the city of Pittsburgh also has, I think, Conservancy or some sort of volunteer gardening group have planters like in the traffic circle, so you cannot drive over the middle of it. I think the unfortunate part is, and this may come up later, is we didn't, as far as I know, we didn't collect post data. We might have collected pre-data. I don't know that we collected post data, and that was a previous board and a previous entity, but we can't certainly understand your anecdotal element, but I would have loved to have seen what's the volume, what's the speed, the things we should have collected post data. And some of the things we're going to talk about tonight are going to point to that. So like you said, experiments, they went right to hardscape, is my understanding, Beth. They went right to some different things that what some people have dubbed the Dukes of Hazzard Trump at Overlook, which I appreciate pushing cars bash over it, but they could have done a lot in paint and flex posts to pry things out first. And actually experiment, it's very hard to take out hardscape versus flex posts and paint. So thank you.
Other questions?
Not the audience is allowed to ask questions, but did you say during your presentation that it's legal to make a direct left turn and ignore the circle completely?
Yeah. My understanding, questions asked of neighbors and the neighbor made an inquiry of the magistrate, and the magistrate said you don't have to go around the circle.
Thank you.
Magistrate enforcement element too, like it is against the law, but a lot of times the magistrate is going to overturn some sort of citation. So magistrates are elected officials, so I would but appreciate your commentary. So go ahead.
Was there any particular reason why this, I mean, this doesn't appear to be like a community thing. Is there any reason for it's like a mini round?
I don't think any of the people here were part of that process.
Yeah, I know I wasn't, that's what I'm asking.
There, well, in answer, I can give you what I know. There was a considerable number of traffic studies conducted. The traffic volume was measured. There were presentations made to the neighborhood. Many of us attended in the meeting room up front to listen to Gateway Engineering make those presentations. There was talk about making Parker one way and Arden making it a one-way street as well in the opposite direction. What is happening is people, much like was described for the Shady Drive situation, these folks are coming up off of Cochrane Road and trying to beat the traffic light at the corner of Beverly and Cochrane. That gives them an approach down to the bottom part of Beverly, down toward Atria's. So there is very heavy traffic at certain times of the day. And just like the neighborhood described for Shady Drive, we've seen a turnover in the neighborhood where we've gone from a lot of younger couples to older couples. Now we're back to younger couples with children. So there is a real concern about the volume of the traffic and the speed of the traffic. But just going through the stop sign is the biggest problem. If people would just stop for the stop sign, it wouldn't be an issue.
So we're gonna, just to be cognizant of folks' time, and we have more public comments online,
I'm
but
sorry.
I appreciate your
No,
time.
I thank you, but I
Yep.
just wanted to answer the
No,
question. Thank you
yeah.
all very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ann Hershey or Ann Hersley? Heisley?
Power Hill Road. And I won't take a long time. Just bringing up again, the Kelso Road issue and, as another neighbor said, we are just going to keep, bringing it up and, asking for maybe signs, another sign to be put up, getting to people to slow down where the children cross, where the children's crossing. And nicer weather now, the kids are gonna be walking home from school, so, we just need to think about the safety of the kids. My problem seems small compared to what everybody else talked about tonight, but the problem is still there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
And we have Kathy Prentice in the room. Kathy Prentice, make it there. Okay, sorry.
I'm here.
Okay. Commissioner Flynn said he's online.
Hi, I'm Kathy Prentice, 617 Oxford Boulevard. I'm discouraged for the people for Shady Drive. I'm discouraged for people in Arden. We've been coming for a year, every single month. I have been contacting for help for 10 years. We don't know what to do any further. We've asked what to do. We were told, write our representatives. I have letters here from our representatives. We were told to show our faces here. I don't know if you're sick of us, we're sick of us. We've been here every month. Not me, maybe, and more, we have them. What started us from being just complainers to coming was we had a child hit. We have had more accidents on Kelso, and we haven't gotten anything. We've been told we're gonna get sidewalks. We have extremely Rudy, who's been very patient with us, giving us as much advice as he can, and who actually still answers our calls, which we're amazed at. But we're getting nothing. And I'm listening to all these people, and every time we're here, that's all we're hearing. I would really like, I don't see the police. Are they here? Are you the police? I would really like to see the traffic reports to see how many police stops are being taken, because what I'm hearing is it doesn't matter what we do. Nothing is stopped. My husband and I drove up Kelso today, and I know I was coming here. I made my husband go a little over the speed limit to see sort of what the car in front of us was doing. He was doing at least 10 to 20 miles an hour faster than us. We have not gotten, Rudy swears we did, that we got painted crosswalks. They don't appear it. I have pictures. I have letters here from Dan Miller that we never were shared, that Dan Miller supposedly shared with you guys, saying that he understands our frustration, that they also contacted PennDOT, that they recommended to you to have traffic enforcement on that road. that they recommend considering pursuing flashing pedestrian devices or electronic devices that require a traffic signal permit. Of course, I know this is gonna cost money. The township could also consider the installation of speed devices. PennDOT says it's your responsibility to do this. The only thing they do is the state. So we need help here. The traffic in Mount Lebanon is getting ridiculous and we don't have any enforcement. We don't know what else to do. If you guys can tell us, I mean, are we supposed to start a fundraising? Come on, we're becoming like the Harris Theater here. You know, the Dennis Theater. It's like forever. You know, tell us what to do. We're jumping through the hoops. We can give you all the documents. We don't know what else to do. So please, any help you can give us. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving to online. I believe we have 3 hands raised. We're just gonna start from the top. Can you go move up from Mickey to Julianne Sullivan? Unmute yourself and state your name and address.
My name is Julianne Sullivan, 48 Shady Drive, West. Just walking my dog this morning. It's not a matter that people roll through the stop signs. They are just on their phone or whatever. They just don't see it and they just don't stop. So I had to scream at somebody and go, look, there's a stop sign. And I would love to see Shady Drive West be the experiment to be a living street and get some, like what Lauren talked about, some grass area between the street and our sidewalk and have some bump outs so people would kind of be forced. I even know that some of our neighbors park on the street purposely to slow down traffic. That's what we've had to go to, so that, you know, one person will have to wait for another one. What I don't understand is that there is another person who lives in Mount Lebanon who talked to the commission and Officer Green, and within 3 hours, they had lines at the corner of McCully and Marlin East. So it's obviously not something difficult to do. And I think these troubled areas, if we would at least get some vertical lines where the intersections are, at least it would be a step forward, not a final solution. But, you know, I don't want to wait until some kid gets hit for us to go, wow, that really is a problem. I don't think that's the answer. So what I'm asking for is, if I understand that some of these projects take a long time and we have money and design and all that, painting some lines and saving a life is easy. So I would like to see that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, we have Kristen. If you can state your first and last name and address. Once you should be able to unmute and speak.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Goodell. I live at 60 Shady Drive West. Shady Drive West has been a speeding hazard for all 26 years we've lived here. Our street offers the best of both worlds: city convenience with suburban safety, excellent schools, well-maintained streets. I did a lot of research before moving there. Yet it has been an extremely stressful place to live, especially with children crossing the streets and playing freely with their neighbors. As we heard about the lemonade stand earlier, that was right outside our door. Despite efforts like placing cars with flashing lights on Halloween and successfully petitioning for stop signs, that took years, but again, it happened to be somebody we knew that made that actually come through. High speeds continue to be a daily concern, with several cars running stop signs each day. My count is a little similar to Lauren's. I counted around 28 children under age 14 living on our street right now. So safety is more important than ever. According to the 2021 Mount Lebanon Fire Department report, Mount Lebanon had 112 car accidents in our 5.88 square mile neighborhood. Of these, 44 resulted in injury. These statistics don't include many that were unreported, such as our car mirror being swiped twice right out front, my daughter being struck by a hit-and-run driver, which I never even reported, her violin went flying, and me nearly being hit when my kids were young, walking my children across the street with a stroller years ago. Additionally, PennDOT reports that Allegheny County leads the state in car accidents. It would be encouraging if Mount Lebanon, a community that prides itself on being idyllic, was not contributing to this troubling statistic. We are excited about the Move Lebo's initiative to improve safety in our walking community. Our first priority, I've got three. Our first priority is to gain approval for the painted crosswalks, as Julianne was mentioning, across the two sides on Shady Drive West. It's not as much of an issue coming from the alley. People typically stop there because they know if they don't, they're going to get hit. So the western side and the eastern side of Shady having painted drawn lines. Second, we wish to be a test street for those landscaped bump outs that will still allow the parking and allow fire trucks, police cars, trash trucks, and snow plows to travel through easily. So we would like to put temporary flexible rubber poles in 4 designated areas. We measured 4 feet wide by 20 feet long, would not impede the ability for these trucks and utility vehicles to get through. So we would like to do the rubber poles in those 4 locations. One would be at the northwestern corner of Meadowcroft and Shady Drive West. I'll submit all this to you guys in writing after we get our petition. One at the intersection at the southeastern side of Darby Alleyway and Shady Drive West, and one at the southwestern side of Coolidge and Shady Drive West, and lastly, one northeastern side of Mapleton and Shady Drive West. So not that many, and I have a visual I could share. So it's basically 4 spots that are 4 feet wide, 20 feet long that would be landscaped. This kind of morphs into the third point. At the conclusion of that test, we want Shady Drive West to be a pilot project to bring living streets, AKA WUNRFs, to Mount Lebanon, and I have a link that I can share in the handout. Redesigning our street as a living street via these landscape bump outs will slow down the traffic, collect the stormwater runoff, slow the flow, improve the air quality by increasing our green space, and reduce the energy consumption. Our streets lack adequate stormwater collection, and as a result, there are large puddles, erosion, and wet basements after heavy rains. Also, due to the design of our sidewalks, because of what Lauren was describing, it's so narrow that we can't plant trees there. So this would solve that issue and bring more greenery and clean air to our street and Mount Lebanon as a whole. So the lack of trees makes our road seem like an asphalt runway, void the charm and character that is found on many of our streets in our community. According to the Air Quality Index report, Mount Lebanon's air pollution is 38 points higher than the national average. My daughter studied environmental science. I know Pittsburgh as a whole is an issue, but I was astounded to find that statistic. We know that Hussey Copper is one of the largest polluters in the world, let alone the US. So what are we doing in our neighborhood in Mount Lebanon? It's an issue. Additionally, flash flood damage is costly, and it seems Mount Lebanon should strategically plan to minimize these scientifically predicted growing expenses that are coming our way, no matter how much we try to deny it. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection highlights that in 2018, PennDOT reported record-breaking flood and landslide impacts, resulting in an additional $125.7 million in infrastructure replacement costs alone. So your advocacy on these 3 initiatives, we attended the last one. We've heard Kelso. Astonishing to me that they've been coming for a year and nothing's getting done. I agree. That's disheartening to hear. So your advocacy in those 3 initiatives is much appreciated. And I think we have a pretty large showing tonight to demonstrate that we could easily get a petition signed. And we're happy to be a pilot street and show everyone that you can have the best of both worlds. You can have the urban living, walk to everything, and still have kids having lemonade stands safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
I believe we have one more, Mara or Maura. Please state your first and last name and your address.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name's Mara Straza. I'm at 106 Shady Drive West. I have been a resident of Shady Drive West for 10 years, about a little over 10 years now. And I've observed a significant increase in speeding on the street and also a lack of adherence to the stop signs, as everyone else has been saying too. They, even just today, when I was backing out of my driveway to pick my son up at school, the car hardly even slowed down and went straight through the stop sign and almost hit me while I was trying to back out of my driveway. I'm one house up from that intersection that we've been talking about, the Shady Drive West in Coolidge. And I'm admittedly, I'm not outside a lot, but it's been even more recently that I'm seeing this happening and people are driving so fast. So oftentimes I see that whenever in the morning, whenever I'm backing out of my driveway to take my son up to school, people will come around the corner.
No, it's okay. Did we lose her?
I did, that was me.
No. Hi, Mara, we just lost you for a second. Can you unmute again and continue?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's my fault, sorry.
That's okay. And so I was saying it, usually when I see the concerns that everyone's talking about is in the morning, whenever I'm backing out of my driveway to take my son up to school, people are coming around that corner where we have stop signs there, but they're coming around the corner so quickly to get to get their kids to school, probably at the high school, that when I'm backing out, I often have to stop and then go back in my driveway. So they're definitely not adhering to the stop signs. I think that what I'm proposing is I agree that the living street would be really have a lot of benefits for our street. It will slow people down. It would make it look nicer and also just not have that asphalt runway that we've been talking about. So I think that would be a really great option. Also, the other options, I don't know if speed limits being posted, if there's a potential to do that, because I don't think we have them on our street. And also the crosswalks painted and stop bars at that intersection, I think would be really helpful. So thank you for your time. And I'm looking forward to positive outcomes from this, and I'm glad to be here with all my neighbors. Thank you.
Unless there are any others, that concludes tonight's citizen comments, and we will move.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Morgan, come on
I
up.
did not know where 104 was, and I was standing in the lobby way too long.
Okay, please come to the front and state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Morgan Sulik. I live at 138 Sleepy Hollow Road. So I wanted to talk about, I'm a member of Oblivo. I wanted to talk about some streets that I'm aware of getting repaved in the next 2 years. My Wi-Fi didn't work, but I will send an email with the streets. There are streets in Sunset Hills. Since I live in 138, the way I get to uptown and main roads are through Sunset Drive. The first one was Sunset Drive and the alley that I'm not recalling down below Pinecone Park. The alley, I believe, is getting repaved. The northern section of the sidewalk doesn't have, it's not ADA compliant. So I've watched a mom try to push a double stroller up there. I had the same problem. So it's already a tough hill to begin with. So I would support a change to that, either a curb cut, but even better, a continuous sidewalk. It's an alley, bringing the alley level up to sidewalk level. So it's a nice, easy walk down for coffee.
Is that Ross Way?
Yes, thank you. The other one that always bugs me is Key Stand and Sunset. That Key Stand, I believe, is getting repaved. The curb cuts are at the 45-degree mark. So Sunset's pretty high traffic. So I have to push the stroller out into Sunset before coming over. Sunset also doesn't really have a lot of parking. And that improvement, I think, could be, as we heard before, bump outs at that intersection. That way you can have more space for the curb cuts. And you can just have a nice, easy path along Sunset or up to school, depending on where you're going. And then down on Andawanda and since I lost my notes, the dead end street on there also looks like it's getting repaved. I don't walk that way as much, but we've gotten reports through Levo that the Andawanda has a good bit of speeding on it. It's also just downhill from the school. So another road where we want minimal traffic, minimal speeds. Same suggestions there to have redo intersections, to do curb cuts, try to, or do curb bump outs, try to limit that. I have some diagrams that I can send, so. Those are all my comments.
And you're gonna send an email?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good. I'm not signed up to speak, but can I jump in?
Yeah.
Thank
Please
you.
go to the front, state name and address.
How can we tell that? You may recognize me from last fall. My name is David Helwig. I live at 16 Rockland Place. I'm 74.5 years old and probably lived in Mount Lebanon for all but about 10 of those. I've started out on Mount Lebanon Boulevard, 121 apartment building, moved to Shady Drive East, the duplex next to Fulton's Farm. For a while, it was idyllic, wonderful time. I could talk about that for a while, but we moved to Seneca Drive in the Markham District, in the Rockland Place where I currently reside, across the way from Beverly Heights Church. And then lived for a time on New Bern Drive. So I've been around and I've been here a long time. I'm hearing this stuff tonight, same as I heard at the other meetings. And I don't disagree with it, but you know, the culture has changed. More kids are getting driven to school, double income families, and cell phones. I do a lot of cycling, bicycling, and I hate speed bumps. And I don't think they really work because people speed up to make up the lost time. Okay, and the whole culture has changed. But something else that has changed from when I was growing up is the traffic enforcement. I understand there's issues about speeding and the state law and so on and so forth, but rolling through or just running stop signs, illegal left turns. And again, to reuse an outdated metaphor, sound like a broken record, I think the number one thing that needs to be done is more vigorous traffic enforcement. When I was growing up, Mount Lebanon was notorious for, you know, very strict traffic enforcement. I remember when I was like one of the few traffic tickets I've ever gotten. I was driving past the gallery of, I think it was Kaufman's at the time, going down the hill. And I got ticketed for going 40 miles an hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. It's one of the few tickets I've ever gotten. I don't know what the deal is, but we need more vigorous traffic enforcement. And it does seem, I've seen more police cars out there and seemingly pulling people over for what, I'm not sure, but just gonna say it again, I think the number one thing that can be done, and I'm not disparaging the other potential solutions that are being considered or have been tried and not succeeded, is much more vigorous traffic enforcement by the Mount Lebanon Police. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I suggest that you go to the commission meetings too and give the, cause like. Right here, we're focused on mobility. I don't think our traffic liaison has ever showed up. I think we had a substitute one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Not that I'm aware. No, the police
mean-
have not been attending.
It's like, I don't know how to get that to happen. So maybe it might be good to go to the commission meeting and give.
Well, now that I'm mostly retired, I think I could squeeze that.
All right. I think I'm gonna move to the chairperson's report, but thank you for your time. And I appreciate all the commentary. I share many of the frustrations brought forward. I think Mount Lebanon has kicked the can down the road in a lot of this, and kind of a high tides lift all boats. So, you know, traffic deaths and traffic violence and crashes associated with children is one of the leading causes of death for children ages 4 to 19. It's significant. This is a walking community. Many of the things brought forward should be baseline design considerations when we paint, or not when we paint, when we touch our streets. I just want to share, this is a graphic that's been shared out in different forms, but it probably could cover Mount Lebanon pretty well. In 1919, the great grandfather of this individual could cover 6 miles, and it's a large swath of area. They were free to roam essentially. The grandfather then in 1950, it was reduced to 1 mile from their home. And then subsequently in 1979, a half mile. And now the son in 2007, 300 meters. So 300 yards, significantly reduction. And it's all partially development patterns, but all the things that have been addressed. We prioritized how cars move through our community, and we haven't changed our streets to address them. I found PRT maps showing where buses used to go through, and they were probably smaller buses. I don't know have the details, but they moved through a lot of these streets that have been brought up. And so the curb radii match those needs, and they've been designed for larger vehicles that don't exist anymore. So we need to change and modernize. And I hope there's some elements tonight that are gonna be brought forward that'll help in this direction. But I think more budget is needed, more of this advocacy is needed. And I wish I had better solutions that we just unfortunately don't have at this time as a mobility board. But I think our commission and our municipality at large can come up with some better solutions to help turn this tide quicker. So with that, I will move to the commission liaison report. I know Andrew's online, but I also know he's under the weather a little bit. So Andrew, if you're able to speak and willing, please. And I assume the hand raise says yes. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I am out sick. I came down with the bug that seems to be going around. I'm on the mend, but you know how that goes. Better safe than sorry. Don't have a lot to report. In terms of mobility specifically, it has been busy. From a commission perspective, as I'm sure many of you are aware, we've been busy approving a lot of the road reconstruction work that is scheduled, a lot of the other contracts that are underway right now for this current fiscal year. So getting ready for construction. But also there are a couple new business items that I was actively involved in that will come up on the agenda that I will participate in, but I won't jump in now on. So I've been trying to push various items forward. And I'm sorry again that I couldn't be there tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I will move to Rudy.
Okay, just a couple brief things. Mr. McMeans indicated that he had a kickoff phone call last week, I believe he said, with Dormont and a consultant. So active transportation plan should get rolling in earnest here very shortly in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent.
Woodland sidewalks, Ian will be giving a presentation at the commission discussion session next Tuesday on the status. We have 4 driveways that need adjusted. The engineer's working with those residents. 3 of the 4 have agreed to the adjustments based on, the hillsides and so forth there, contours of the land. So that's in the works, and Ian will have a most recent update for that next Tuesday evening if you want to tune into that or come to the discussion session. And then one last thing, we just installed this week 2 red dead end signs at the end of Country Club. A resident brought it to our attention that I think someone had tried to drive out into that park off the dead end. It's not a very good, it's tough out there because there's no hammerhead, no cul-de-sac. It just, the road stops and then the park starts. So we're actually installing a park sign for Country Club. But we also installed two of those, red, they're squares on the side, so they're like a diamond, to indicate that there's no roadway there. That's the end of the roadway. We have them at the end, that end of Sleepy Hollow as well, where that goes through. We installed those probably 10 or 15 years ago.
It ends in a playground, but they.
I don't think that I don't know that they went all the way into the playground, but, and that's never, I'm not aware of it ever happening before, but you know, if somebody's not, I guess, paying attention or familiar with the area.
And I
Or
just
store.
saw them last night, I wondered what they were. for.
Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, somebody had some concerns and you know, you don't think about that until something like that happens. So, so they're in there now and that should, pretty much, if you go through it now, it's probably intentional. That's all I have. Well, we have to access the park. That's the other thing. So I thought about that, but we need to get in there with dump trucks and machinery to dig out the mulch, do the basketball court, fencing, trees. There's a lot of maintenance in that little park. So
Movable bollards.
yeah.
Got a solution to all of it, Rudy, no, but thank you.
Yes, you did. Okay. That's all I have.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, I'm gonna move into the subcommittee reports, starting with capital budget.
Yeah, so we did have a meeting in February. Lisa's not here today, but so I'll just give a brief report to that. I did send you a couple of points Rudy in an email, but it was just today. So you know, basically looking to talk about the funding that we do have allocated. Very interested in trying to get something done for Kelso, as we've heard, you know, just, you know, no need to repeat, but you know, so we were looking maybe flashing signs, you know, what is it that they were proposing? Anne was here earlier. Initially, if we have that document, you know, what we have received from Kelso and the Bower Hill people, concerned with that area, we just would like to try to do something is what we're hoping for, but you know, at the same time, for the 30,000 that we know was approved in the budget for this year, we're just not sure like where we need to align with, you know, what our thoughts are in each of our committees on, you know, where that might potentially be directed. Again, hoping Kelso. And then we're also wondering about the sidewalk prioritization. We had a question on Woodland, so that's cool that they're already, and that's good that they're presenting
Yeah,
next.
it should be
next
going
week.
out to bid shortly here.
Wow. Yeah, that'll be great to see. So, so that's cool. But, you know, we also have our sidewalk list that we all know pretty well now in terms of preparing for 2026 and thinking about like what, you know, when do we get, you know, made clear what our list is. So those were the items. Beth, can you think of anything else?
I think just circling back to Kelso, we really spent a lot of time talking about Kelso. And we understand it's a state road, so it's not as easy to navigate because of that. When I think it was Anne or Maureen, Kathy, she was here this evening and she had a stack of papers. It was Kathy, and she had that stack of papers. She was referencing something about Dan Miller responded and PennDOT came back. We were really interested in discussing the possibility of flashing lights similar to what was installed on Cedar at that intersection. I feel like the quote for the price on that might fit with the 30,000 allocated for mobility, but I can't remember the exact figure on that. I think the clarification we were wondering about was because it's a state road, the right of way, but it sounds like PennDOT is saying it's Mount Lebanon's responsibility. So and if there's some sort of discrepancy there, we wanted to elevate to whatever the next step would be to communicate that with PennDOT to have that installed. I think, right, Charlotte, is that kind of what we were?
Yep, yeah,
talking
just
about?
to try to get an understanding of, you know, what we can and can't do. I mean, we're beyond that at this point. It seems like.
Well, as a group, I mean, I think you need to make a recommendation to the manager, you know, because
Yeah.
you're talking about spending funds and the manager
Right.
makes that decision on what the next step would be, so.
So flashing lights, I make a motion that.
But I will say, I'd just like to say this, there is a painted crosswalk there. We paint it every year. You know, the comment was made that there's no painted crosswalk. There is a painted piano key. It's highly visible from a distance. There's a couple of the, Pentagon, school crossing signs, one on each side, the approach. They're the older yellow ones, yellow and black, so we could probably upgrade those to the lime green. It would be a little more visible. And you know, the other thing that I've looked at this intersection myself several times. I've been down there. I took the flag down that was blocking the one sign. There's no sidewalks on any part of that intersection. So there's a crosswalk there, but it goes to nothing. So, you know, again, we keep saying about the active transportation plan. Hopefully this would be one of the areas that would be addressed with that plan.
Right.
So I don't want to put the cart before the horse here and, you know, try to do something just to do something. Let's make sure that it's going to be effective and have an impact, the impact that you want it to have, because right now there's nowhere to go.
How was the crosswalk location determined? So if there aren't any
Traffic engineers
Okay.
determine what we put in and how we
Based
put
on
it
a mid-block, but you have no ADA accommodations at all.
in. Right.
So if to install an RFB, yes, the price may be within that 30,000, but not with all of the upgrades to the ADA ramps and everything else that will be required.
For the flat, what, is that what you, what?
Yes, to have a rectangular rapid flashing beacon with a pedestrian push button, you need to have ADA compliance. And there's, to Rudy's point, no sidewalks, no ADA ramps, nothing.
Okay.
To go to that. So
To go
You
so
can't just.
you cross the street, where would you go?
No.
Right.
But there's no sidewalks on one side of Cedar. They're on the other
Yeah,
side.
it connects to Salem, across Salem and up Cedar to Cochrane.
Sidewalks.
No, not Salem, but Cedar, up Cedar. They wanted, the request was to tie that into the other side of Cedar so that you can cross from there. And people still walk in the grass or in the street down from Salem. So it reduced the distance to cross that street.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there was a lot of things that were done there to improve the safety for the pedestrians. And it also, it appears that it slowed traffic down because it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is a great, yeah, I'd love to see more of that. So I did not know the detail about the requirements of ADA compliance to install something like that. But it is possible to perhaps get brighter lime green and maybe
Absolutely.
line the poles
Yeah.
with like the
That's-
lime green
Just
strip.
There's a utility pole there. I don't think we're allowed to line those.
No,
But if-
oh, what is it mounted on?
They're not a, but if,
The one heading down towards Painter's Run is on a utility pole
I think,
right
it-
before the intersection.
but I think to your point, I think it could be that you move instead of calling it a school ahead, just sign it
Just
for
a regular
pedestrians
pedestrian
and put it
crossing,
right
yeah.
there, and you could put the
Whatever that
reflectors.
W, whatever it is, yeah.
Can we paint that road? Are we not allowed to paint the road? Could we paint it like we did up on Bower Hill? Like that to indicate there's a crosswalk coming, the slows, like words and all that? Could we do any of that there? Like legally, I guess.
I mean, it could be looked at, you know,
Okay.
those are all options for
Yeah.
sure. It has to be looked at and
Yeah, okay.
And pretty much PennDOT maintains the longitudinal lines on a state route. You can add transverse like markings. You would just be maintaining them.
right,
So that they're fairly lenient, like that doesn't require an HOV.
yeah.
So do we know the cost on the slow, so the one that says slow and the arrows on both sides, like roughly the cost of that kind of painting?
We'd have to get quotes on that.
Okay. Could we could.
I mean, are we gonna, again, are we gonna wait for the?
I do think, yeah, I want to understand the concerns, but I do want to echo the active transportation plan is getting started and it is the best, one of the best consultant groups for this type of work. And I think they can help us work through some of these ideas, some of these logistics, like those RRFBs are very expensive. And I share their concerns, like a child was hit by someone driving. But what is the volume on Kelso Road, you know, without sidewalks, without these things? It's very different than Cedar and Holly to spend the entire budget on one RRFB when we can do things like these curb bump outs, the crosswalks at a wider scale, because I think they are a minimum thing. And then really push PennDOT or push others through funding, through a multimodal grant, through something else to say, hey, we got a Kelso Road, because there's organizations in the municipality where somebody could apply for a PennDOT multimodal or Department of Economic Development multimodal to say, because you are connecting to a bus route, not a frequent one, connecting to a bus route. PennDOT, we have money, we want to redesign Kelso Road, because that is the most appropriate, in my mind, condition or the best return on investment.
That's a huge undertaking, and we're trying to get a quick win here, I think. And how long is it gonna take for the active transportation plan to be done and then enacted? Like, we've been hearing about it for a year as well, so.
Ian McMeans, are you listening? No, I'm sorry. It's inappropriate, but I've shared that frustration, but it is launching. I believe the contract was for 12 months with Tool. Allegheny County is also simultaneously doing a safety action plan that is going to help in these things. The frustration is warranted. Government is slow. Kelso Road should have been addressed when Kelso Road was built. But we have to be, in my mind, I would like to be good stewards of this limited money we have and continue to advocate for expanded funds, because 30,000 gets wiped out really fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think we did the right thing when we made recommendations for sidewalks in Kelso. It was one of our priority streets that should be on the managers. It didn't make it in last year's, but it is gonna be on the manager's budget for advocating for that line item in next year's fiscal year.
To clarify, we have Tool for 12 months.
I think that's what the consultant contract is. I don't remember what they.
As well.
Yeah, the joint active transportation at Dormont. It might be 12 to 18 months.
That's a lot of land to cover in a short amount of time. I think what we really were talking about at the Capitol, our meeting was, I don't think reflective lime green signs are gonna be a big lift, or I could be wrong. We can make incremental changes because these are citizens and they have put in their time to come here.
Yeah.
At a bare minimum, let's put up some brighter signs. Like, we hear you.
Yeah.
We understand your concerns. We could be doing better. I mean, all of us here tonight would like to see something done.
Yeah.
And I think just taking the easy lift of brighter signs as a stopgap until something bigger can be done.
I think it's a fresh hand raised from Commissioner Flynn. Go ahead, Andrew.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Right. Hey, I guess my recommendation would be, rather than going around, under new business, just bring it up and say you want to spend whatever is necessary within that $30,000. Put it forward as a vote, put it to commission can chew on it. Rather than going around in circles. If that's how you want to spend the money, go for it. That would be your recommendation.
I mean, you can bring it up in new business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that includes though the budget update, and we do have another meeting in April that we scheduled.
Okay.
So, yep,
Excellent.
thanks.
Policy, I will go to John.
We did not have a meeting this month. I had said previously that we were gonna be looking at the neighborhood traffic management program policy for an update. We did, well, I think we had already started looking at it at the previous meeting. And then we got the news that, I guess Commissioner Flynn had drafted something that proposes to replace it. I actually think that it's a separate thing, that having looked at it this weekend. And I guess I'll discuss that at under the new business when we talk about it. But we did not have a meeting this month.
And then I will go to Paul for street design.
We've had about 4 or 5 meetings in the last couple of months, and the result is under new business in terms of street design resolution that has been brought forward and shared with everyone. Commissioner, I don't know if we want to talk about highlights right now or wait till we get into new business.
Save it for new business.
Yep.
All right, there's no old business before we jump into new business. Beth, I think there was a question about Kelso Road in the previous request. In the transportation mobility larger folder, I just made a new folder for street design requests and put the Kelso components in that folder. Just made one for Kelso Road for that initial request.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yep. And then moving to new business, the first item is the street design resolution. We need a motion to take this up, or do we, sorry, I don't remember the logistics. I think we do need a motion to.
I'll defer to Commissioner Flynn, I don't know.
Yeah, do we need a motion to discuss it?
I would say you probably just want to introduce it and then ask for a motion.
So this is in the folder. I know, probably not everybody had enough time to review, but as I said, we've met a couple times as the street design subcommittee and policy, and I think a lot of the components of what folks are talking about tonight do fall in this bucket. The resolution is focused on updating the process of which we redesign, what is taken into account, what are the goals and objectives of this program and this specific neighborhood street design program. Because I think there's been elements before when we put out RFPs, not referencing our existing complete streets policies or not referencing other elements, knowing that there's a lot to take into account on projects and, you know, in my opinion, a lot behind or beyond pavement condition index to look at. So this was really kind of wrapping many of those processes together. There's significant components of administration and plan management. I think somebody brought forward Arden Road wanting, you know, they had a lot of anecdotal evidence that it's not working, but we don't have the data on those requests. This is speaking about that data. What are we going to get in the initial? What are we going to get after an implementation? And creating, I think, the vehicle to do, he called Arden Road an experiment. I don't think hardened surface is an experiment. It's unfortunate already in place, but it would have been great to experiment with Arden Road on some different conditions. I think this begins to create the process. So
I was just gonna say one that near and dear to my heart, it's also a service-oriented issue. Again, hearing folks coming time after time, they'll get notification, communication sooner where it is in the prioritization, along with the reconstruction plan. So again, doing something or at least letting people know will go a long way.
yeah, the back end had a procedure in like the street design list prioritization. And I think a lot of folks have asked that if they, you know, if this went into the hopper and it went in and it's like, well, you actually ranked out 5 in the list, so you're down there. I think it gives folks, one, continued advocacy, continued ability to go there, asking for more funding around this because 30,000 on a street redesign doesn't go anywhere. How much, do we talk about a Pinocchio crosswalk is like $5,000 or something like that? So, I think it's not gonna make everyone happy, but we have to get that list, and similar to the sidewalk request we brought up, we have to get that list in front of commission to either expand budget through certain means or continue to advocate for street redesign ahead of these other principles. So I like that it had some of that. Andrew, did you want to add any more context to this?
Sure, yeah, and thanks, guys. This, for me, what, I realized was that, looking at the current traffic management or traffic calming policy, I immediately saw and understood some of the challenges, with how we do it now. And as I've said to you all before, I see the challenge of, we are waiting for this 85% threshold, but that's really not the structural challenge that residents are expressing concerns about. It's not averages, it's the one-offs, it's just the general feel of the property or their public right-of-way in front of their homes. So how do we understand that it's a structural issue? There's not necessarily a threshold, but those are variables that should be considered as part of our road program. That said, right, I am very sensitive to the high quality of work and maintaining the high quality of work that Rudy and his team does with our streets today. I think it is a testament to his work and his team's work that they maintain just the highest quality of roads in our region, and I don't want to hinder that. So the question in my mind is, how do we evolve our road design program, our street design program, to, as I've told you all before, stay ahead of the actual street reconstruction program, and implement a framework that allows people to see, to engage in the process, to see where their right of way is in the process, to design before it's time for reconstruction. Because invariably, right, we all get into the crux of, well, that one's going to be reconstructed this year, let's talk about it. It's too late when it's time to be reconstructed. How do we get years in advance and allow a design process to occur that isn't rushed, that allows people to participate, and is a systematic exercise that the mobility board and staff and consultants would do every single year. And someday get to every road, knowing that we can't get to every road that's going to be reconstructed right away, but at least have the discipline to say, we're going to do, these are the streets that are on our radar. We're going to do as many as we can this year. And then we keep doing it year after year after year, over time, improving the overall design of our rights of way. Now, all that said, right, I'm also a firm believer that this isn't just about the street surface. It's about trees, it's about power lines, it's about stormwater, it's about understanding holistically what the right of way is and how it should be designed so that we're being as efficient as possible with our finances when we spend the dollars. But it's also about getting into a framework that is going to allow residents to say, this is what I would like my street to be. And I'm of the opinion personally, guys, that if everybody says, hey, I want 50 feet wide asphalt, and they are all for it, then largely, you know, I'm gonna stay away from it because that's what those residents want. But right now, that's not the problem. The problem is that residents say, I don't want that. And there isn't a mechanism to facilitate that shift, or there isn't a clear one, I guess I should say. So my goal here is to help create that framework and that process. Understanding that there are other aspects of this whole, you know, thing that we are trying to accomplish. I'm not trying to be prescriptive with everything. My goal is here is to be more about the framing of the process that we all work within, rather than exactly what, you know, answers or what the answers are to when the questions are asked. That's a long way of kind of framing this all in, but that was kind of my thinking about this. I know this isn't perfect. I don't think any policy ever is. But hopefully it's at least a framework that people can wrap their brains around and can get us moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
I like the queue concept. That reminds me when you go to the DMV and you're like, okay, how long am I gonna be here? You're waiting and you know, or, you know, if you've been like, you know, for surgery, like you see on the board, like you see something like, okay, I'm next, or my loved one's gonna be whatever, you know, like that's a great concept. So that's a good idea, you know, that you can see on your street. Okay, we're up next for whatever, you know. I like that.
I also like the criteria update for what would be considered for undertaking it, where the 85th percentile is 30% of the weight of it, but also resident request is huge, safe walking route, and then the proximity to public amenity. Those are huge, and so I'm very happy to see that we're gonna have a more comprehensive overview of what we're, you know, how we're making decisions.
And I think to the commissioner's point, it's not perfect, but in my mind, you know, this leaves us and it goes up to commission in a process, and it goes through a process there. I think it helps to have it even ahead of the active transportation plan, to have a tool look at like, hey, we put this together. Do you have amendments to it? Because it's easier to amend a policy that exists than to wait for them to pull one off the shelf. Because a lot of times, I've been a consultant pulls off, oh, we use this somewhere else. This is it. This was kind of created of the mind of our community now, and we're just looking for them to augment it at that point, should it be adopted. And they could guide us in that sense, or bake things from the active transportation plan into it after that is complete as well. So with that, do we have a motion to?
Actually,
Oh, go ahead, John. I don't know if we have to have a motion in a second and then discussion and then an actual vote, but.
I mean, I don't know if we want to have discussion after. I would say I have extensive comments and I don't intend to vote for this yet.
Okay.
I would prefer that we see some edits first. So if you anyway, so first off, it seems to me that we're talking about a street redesign program. Like this does not cover subdivision and land development. So it is a redesign program. So I would suggest nomenclature to that effect. Secondly, as far as the neighborhood traffic management program goes, we started looking at that. I saw there's a lot of need for improvement in that. And I'm not sure it's worth it. Like, it seems to me like it's an expensive program. It might not be very effective. So I don't know if we need that. But I view that as an emergency measure for like a really bad street that needs help now. Whereas this is a systematic approach where your street might not, based on having read it, it sounds like it might not get to your street for 20 or 30 years. So we definitely need this. Like, I think since this board was convened last year, I think we've been working towards something like this. But I think we need this. I do not think it is a successor to the neighborhood traffic management program. And even if we get rid of that instead of trying to fix it, I would like to see that as two separate motions presented separately to the commission. Like, one, should we get rid of the neighborhood traffic management program, and two, present this.
Yeah.
And I think the most, well, I did have a nitpick about the weighting criteria. I see the safe walking routes. As they stand, the safe walking routes are meaningless, right? So like we need to create a safe walking route system that does something.
Yeah.
Because right now that's any street. I think most of my questions after that were regarding timeline. Like it seems like so what I was getting from it was that it's sort of like a 5-year process where in 5 years, the streets like come onto your radar and you start looking at it, data starts getting collected. And at some point you start having meetings and citizen comments. And I just wasn't super sure about my interpretation of what it was saying. And also just the timeline also seemed kind of vague. And it might be helpful to flesh it out a bit more, not just, I mean, also so that it's actually implemented the way you envision it. So, because if you're too vague,
Yeah, I mean, I think what we want to understand, and I think those points are well taken. I'd like to hear a motion in a second, and then take this up to the vote, because I think it still sets a framework up for that 20 to 30 year, which we need. And I don't disagree that neighborhood traffic is kind of that interim first step. But yeah, I think the more we dig into it, we've sent things up to commission. It feels like the more detail and things we try to bake into it, we might not ever get anything. And I would like to have something that's better than our current condition, or an incremental improvement on our current condition. Because things keep sliding down. We don't have answers for or we're gonna keep kind of answering to these Kelso Road conditions. So I certainly would, yeah, I would like, it's been presented, so I think we need a motion in a second, and then we can take it to a vote. Or have more discussion and take it to a vote.
I would like to make a motion to approve, because I do agree that we need to take some active steps to move things along.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any?
For discussion, I agree exactly like you said, Seth, and like you said as well with Elizabeth. I think we need to start somewhere.
Yep.
And, that was one of my frustrations in the time that I've lived here, the time that I worked here, was it never seemed to amount to anything, anything we tried to put in place. And I think that the more complex we make it, the more expensive it's gonna get and the less it's gonna get done.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on how things have my involvement in the municipality. I think there's a lot of ideas in this program that I think can be implemented sooner than later, and it doesn't become a 20 to 30 year project for everything. But at least gives consideration to other things, so we don't make it so complex that it's unachievable.
Any other thoughts from board members?
I did just remember having listened to the commission discussion from a couple weeks ago. Somebody, I don't remember who, expressed that I believe this was mentioned briefly, and the subject of conversation was this draft resolution. And I believe someone mentioned sort of like rolling the sidewalk expansion program into it. And I think there was another policy. So yeah, I think there was a couple other things. It's like, yeah, these like that, yeah, there's even more potential redundancy other than just this in the. So like, are those? I don't know, I'm not familiar off the top of my head enough to know how much this succeeds in doing the stuff that those policies intend to, or.
I think maybe don't think of it, I think it started maybe from a textual element from those. I wouldn't think of it as exceeding those. I think policy subcommittees certainly could take up. Let's look at these other ones. Have we encompassed that? Can we, because there's a crosswalk policy, there's a sidewalk, there's all this stuff. I don't
I
think
think it was what, Brick Street reconstruction was the other one mentioned.
so.
Anyway.
Any further board comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Motion passes. The next one is a resolution, based on the automated red light enforcement resolution, and this is something that is basically, the municipality is gonna take forward a resolution in support of expanding what is known as the ARLI program, the Automated Red Light Enforcement Program. Currently, there's a very small subset of municipalities in Pennsylvania that are allowed to pursue automated red light enforcement. This is not gonna solve everything. It is very complicated, but this is essentially just supporting a legislative change to allow more municipalities to do it. The city of Pittsburgh, and I think I shared it in the email, has a good automated red light enforcement page. It's kind of the background and reasons for it. I believe only 4 have implemented it. The city is working to implement theirs. Several of the groups, several of the municipalities are actually smaller than Mount Lebanon or even more rural and suburban. I have been the victim or near victim of several red light running. Washington Road, you see a lot of red light running. I don't believe is vehemently in enforcement, but this is one where the automated ability is a conditional change. I believe strongly in it, and would just like to get the process started. So that's what the resolution is focused on. The municipality is making a resolution, or passing a resolution to go to the legislative, leaders to hopefully expand the program. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So certainly would like to hear either a motion or a second, and we can vote on this one as well.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to, consider that, the automation of red light running or red lights.
Second that.
Any questions or discussion on this? Commissioner Flynn, I didn't give you a chance to kind of weigh in on this one either. Any thoughts on the motion before the group? No hand raised. He might be elsewhere. But yeah, I think this is one of those things, in my mind, it's an easy one to say, go try to expand this program or expand this legislative hurdle.
Was there something in the news recently about issues with the red light enforcement program? Or I swear I saw a headline and then I didn't dig into the article.
There was problems with the bids that the city, either RFPs or a bid.
Was that for funding from the program or was that to install?
I think it was to put it out for bid.
Okay.
And there was a problem, some sort of conflict with the specifications. That was my understanding from the news story. That
Yeah, I saw the headline, but I never dug into it. Okay.
Yeah, this is not gonna get the those hurdles accomplished, because Mount Lebanon's not even allowed to do it, but then their Pennsylvania Vehicle Code has pretty tight restrictions on how the program's implemented. We just aren't even allowed to pursue those restrictions or that process, so.
Was there ever any confirmation as to the reason why? Because like at face value,
No
I look
idea.
at it and I say, person that wrote this law did not know that Pittsburgh does not cover the entirety of Allegheny County.
I think it's just the fractured governance structures of Pennsylvania. We love our fiefdoms, yeah,
They've never approved radar for use by police in
because they
Pennsylvania.
don't have to.
What I'm saying is like that it allows Philadelphia's suburbs are allowed to do it. Pittsburgh's aren't. And that was.
I think it's on purpose, yeah.
It was done as a pilot program in the Philadelphia area, and that's where it just sort of stayed. It never really got expanded from there. So it was done in a very specific zone, specific area. I think it might have expanded a little bit into the
And I
suburbs
think they did. it
outside of Philadelphia, but
for Philly.
yeah, that
It
was,
was smaller, more rural. So
and again,
that
it
was-
just stalled there and never went anywhere.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm helping a sick child who has what I had. Yeah, on this, yeah, for me, this seems like a no-brainer. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, does the municipality support this type of initiative? Does it, I would like to think so. Does it mean we're gonna implement them? Not necessarily. But having the state legislature allow it would be nice. So that it is an option in the toolkit. So I think this is a relatively low risk type of effort to put forward. That would, it's kind of no harm, no foul, it just creates more option.
Well, I'm gonna call for a vote to support this oh, go ahead.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, because I know this is just a resolution saying we support the big like wish list stuff. But if Mount Lebanon ever has the opportunity to implement something like this, I think we will have to start dealing with the blacked out license plates issue. Like, a lot of people already have license plates that are tinted or otherwise obscured to defeat traffic probably I assume the turnpike cameras. But and I assume that we would see a jump in that and would have to be ready to meet it if that were to happen. But yeah, I don't see much red light running around here, but there are a lot of other things that are, I don't know, I see a ton of other stuff, red light running, I see more in Dormont in Pittsburgh. But it seems like it's a low effort.
Beverly Road at Lincoln Elementary is constant.
The whole idea is that I'm exploring the feasibility of it, sounds great to me.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. The next one is a new business item. I think, John, you had an email about this. I just put it on there, but it's really regarding, you want to speak to it a little bit, like how the existing website is speaking about parking, because it's focused more on ticketing than how do you park in Mount Lebanon?
Yeah, so when you search for Mount Lebanon parking, you're presented with the main parking page of the website. And so my experience with it has always been as a resident of Mount Lebanon, looking to tell visitors, living in Uptown specifically, I've always lived in or around Uptown. So looking to tell visitors like where to park when they come, when we meet up at a restaurant or something, and how much it costs. And when you search for parking in Mount Lebanon, you're confronted with a huge list, a huge FAQ about the overnight parking restrictions. And you have to scroll past a ton of that before you reach any information about like the Uptown parking garages or the surface lots or any of that information, which I would think should be first, or rather, I think they should just be separate pages. And I think that's what we're working toward here based on the brief email conversation, we just recommend that the municipality has that split into two separate web pages. Cause yeah, I don't know that people who are just looking to get coffee or want to know about the overnight parking drama.
Yeah, I agree. So I think your motion is basically, I don't know what the logistics of this in terms of website design is, but yeah, I think you could have, I think the reason it is the way it is a lot of people are looking to put their overnight parking permits in, like to make that request. But like, I think it could be an easy link, overnight parking, boom, it goes to the other page instead of having a long legalese about why overnight parking exists, because you're exactly right. If somebody's looking, maybe they're staying at the hotel, maybe they're doing something else, maybe they're doing like, or if they're going to Beverly or business districts, like putting that parking information to the top makes a lot more sense to me than the overnight parking, because I have the overnight parking bookmarked on my phone to make said request when we have visitors.
Or I do like the idea, even if you could have that link to the overnight parking at the top, just one little line,
Yep.
That's it.
Yep, and boom, you're there. Agreed. Do you want to make that motion? Or I don't even know what we're motioning to or who, but.
Yeah. I motion to recommend to the commission that the municipality splits the parking page into a main parking page, a main public parking page, and an overnight parking page, with the former having a link to the latter.
I will second that. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Did we have a new business item though on Kelso or?
Yeah,
Okay.
did you wanna propose or do you want
Doesn't matter.
to motion?
Sure.
We would like to motion that certain amount of funds that we have in the budget this year are allocated towards an effort to do something on Kelso.
You need to say specifically what. it is, because-
Say specifically or?
The manager, I could just.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The manager will direct the traffic engineer to make recommendations on what they feel should be done to improve the visibility of that intersection.
Okay, so we can't say specifically like
I
signs.
don't
that make
think-
sense?
I
Okay,
think the engineer should make that
Okay.
decision
Okay.
based on traffic laws and
I think
regulations.
from us, they're just looking for a recommendation from us that
To
that
do
be
something, to do something.
prioritized.
To take a look at it.
It's our,
No.
we make the motion, we make the recommendation to the manager.
okay,
That we list this as the top priority, and if there's money available, please ask the traffic engineer to see what they can do with that
Okay.
amount of money.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. So I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that.
Give me a second. Any discussion? So if you're talking, I don't know if we want to talk about the specific budget line item, but yeah, just let's look at Kelso Road in deeper detail for redesign, because PennDOT pointed back to the municipality, we played this game, or, you know.
I don't even know that we are even talking about redesign. I think we're just talking an easy win, brighter signage, whatever we can do in a reasonable, like, month's time. I don't know what is a reasonable time, but not a traffic study, not a redesign. Yes, all of that would be great. But we are specifically making a motion for an easy, quick win.
Recommended short-term improvements.
Yeah, I'll relay that to the manager and he can make that decision and direct the traffic engineer to take that up.
Okay.
And we should be able to have some sort of recommendation at the next meeting of it. You did, okay, what are you doing? Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, because I'd like to see at least what's recommended, I guess, at that point, and you know, move it as fast as possible, just be what's being proposed.
For sure, I'm not an expert. I just wanted to specify that we weren't looking for like.
Gotcha. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
And I didn't, like, it wasn't relative to the vote, so I did just want to mention it, squeeze in here. A lot of times we hear people say that Kelso doesn't have a lot of pedestrians, but it does have a lot of cars, and that's the pedestrian car conflict. Cars are half the equation, so, you know, if you got 10 kids on one street and one car, it's pretty similar risk to 10 cars and one kid.
Yeah. We didn't build a bridge over shark infested waters
That's
because we didn't see anyone
that's
swimming.
another issue.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's like that one kid that's there, they're exposed to a lot more cars than the kid on residential street that has somebody blast down at every 20 minutes instead of every 30 seconds.
I agree. All right, our next meeting date and time is Tuesday, April 1st at 6 p.m.
Can I
go ahead,
add
Vicky.
something? If you all haven't turned in your,
Good point.
just handed in, you did hand yours. You can either give them to me or you can send them back in, the financial interest form.
I owe one to my employer and you, so it's on my
So
list.
I
Yeah, I
believe they're due,
think you're right.
so you could hand them to me April first, I think.
That is April 30th on the form.
It says what, April 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, great, so you got 2 months.
I don't think Lisa got one last time. Can she get?
I mailed.
Oh, you
I
mailed-
mailed
oh,
them.
of
Yeah,
course you
people
did.
that weren't here, I mailed them to
Okay,
their.
thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, go ahead, Rudy.
And I'd just like to mention too, that at the next meeting, you'll have to choose a chair and a co-chair for the upcoming year, so
Gotcha.
you may want to think about that through the next month.
Already.
Yeah.
I can't really say. Yeah,
Still the same lineup, or don't we know yet? Like, are we all coming back?
I don't know that for sure. There were 3 that were short-term ones.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, I haven't been told by the, okay, yeah, exactly. So I don't know the answer to that one. The commission will make that decision
Yeah, I
and
don't think it was.
get that
discussed
back
at
to
the
us.
last commission.
Right.
I think they're having
I think they
interviews
were
for some positions next week.
Right, so.
All right, anyone make a motion to adjourn? A second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, not 30 days.
Just so they could.
Trying to quit.
The crosswalk was